Hey, everybody. Welcome to another great episode of AWS Show and Tell. We've got a special treat for y'all today. We've got a show focused on leveraging Agentic AI to deliver in financial services. More on that later. If we haven't met, I'm Trevor Spires. I'm a solutions architect here at AWS. We got a lot of big brains on the call today. We're going to go around, do a quick round of intros. And then we got an action-packed episode of demos, architectures, and much, much more. Anil, folks are used to seeing you. What would you like to say before we hand it over to our guests?
For everyone who's joining today, I'm joining from New Jersey, and Trevor, you're streaming from Boston, right?
Yes, Salem, Massachusetts. That's right. That's
right.
I'm at.
Okay, yeah. So I'm a senior solutions architect here, and coincidentally, Trevor and I are now in the same team, in the fintech space, right? So we are solutions architects here. So let us know where you are joining us in the chat, and we have an exciting show today. We've been chatting about how to bring your agents to production and how to put the guardrails around that, evaluations, policy engines, right? But today we're going to see how to put everything together in action, and then we have guests today joining us who are going to show this live for us, right? So over to you, Chris.
Yeah, hey guys, hi Neil, hi Trev, thanks so much. Super excited to be here. Really cool. So about me, I work in our capital markets market development team, but I focus primarily on wealth management. So in that role, I'm talking to customers around what I see in the industry, wealth management trends within the cloud space, and obviously generative AI. It's a global role, so I get to speak to a lot of customers, and it's all the way from the mass affluent client base up to the ultra high net worth.
Yeah, and spoiler alert, by the way, the stuff you're going to see today that the team's built, this accelerator, these are the sort of things that customers in that segment, wealth management, are asking us about. So if you all are curious what's going on, this should give you a lens into that, whether you work in the industry or not. TH, the man with the Amazon shirt, let them know who you are, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me here. My name is Taeyeon Her. I go by TH. I'm a principal solutions architect at AWS, specializing in financial service industry and AI, GenAI. I bring the 23 plus experience in FSI, focusing on designing, building innovative solution product. That's about me.
Love it. And Sudhar, over to you.
I'm Sudhar Iyer. I'm a partner solutions architect at AWS, primarily focused on channel partners, helping them with their AWS AI adoption needs.
Love it, love it. So first of all, two things. I got to, before we kick off, thank you all for making time to come. I think we're all East Coast on the call, so everybody's on after hours, jamming to educate the community. So everyone, thank you for making time to share what you built with everyone. And by the way, Chris, thank you for reaching out a few weeks ago, getting this on our radar. As soon as I saw what you built, I was like, this is something that I think, whether you work in the industry or even if you're a individual who works with an advisor or is doing your own investing, I think that some of the stuff we're going to dig into today is just really thought-provoking around the direction that the industry is going. With that, Chris, would you mind maybe just taking a couple minutes to share the kind of thesis behind what we're going to show everyone today before we get into demos, architectures, and all of that good stuff?
I'd love to, and I didn't say, also streaming from the East Coast, New Jersey. So there's my shout out, despite the accent, coming out of New Jersey. But so to give you a bit of context, so as I said, right, I speak with wealth management firms around trends, the adoption of AWS, Amazon services, etc. Right, and part of that role, more and more recently, has been showing of demos, capabilities, innovations. And what we're seeing, a lot of those trends are in the advisor space, right? How can we make advisors more efficient? So it's really about, too much time is spent on admin tasks, things about like meeting preparation, gathering information, surfacing insights, onboarding, etc. So it's about how do you augment those existing tools? How do you make them better? How do you, allowing advisors to grow that book of business, increase their efficiency? Right, if you think about this, where the start was a lot of smart chats, we moved into more kind of RAG infrastructures. Now our conversations are really kind of progressing to agentic workflows. So that's how we got here. So with that in mind, we built this accelerator, right? And what it is, it's a wealth management demo platform. TH is going to get into the details for you, but what we're really trying to demonstrate is that from a data lake perspective, through a multi-agent platform to an API infrastructure connectivity, MCP, and then building all of your workflows on top of that, right? So today you're going to see what we've built out so far. So an advisor dashboard, some meeting preparation tools that are pretty cool, market summaries, and a graph database. That's just at the start. We're going to continue building on this accelerator, but I'll give you an idea of some of those capabilities. Does that help cover it, Trev? You want me to, any more context?
No, I think that's wonderful. I think, anytime I love having teams like you all on the show, because to your point, you spend all day, every day talking with customers in this industry. So you've got the clearest signal for the type of challenges that these customers are facing and the fit of generative AI within their businesses. So I think that's a great introduction. And I think sets it up nicely for TH to kind of take it away for us and kind of share more detail about what we've built here.
Absolutely. This is the overall archetype. I will have a detailed architecture next slide. So what we built so far in the bottom, before I start with the bottom layer, security is job 0 at AWS. We ensure, even this is a prototype, we ensured we captured the logging, monitoring, metrics, alert, we automated all of them. So that's a starting point. And we hear multiple times how I can ensure my data is really working for my application, including GenAI apps. That's where we actually built the data lake using the AWS native service, which provide data ingestion process. Either it can be the batch shop, zero ETLs, or it can be the streaming service. And then we actually create the sample data product, which is powering our application. And we can also enable the data mesh capability, data sharing, data governance, etc. On top of our data layer, we have agentic layer, which we have a lot of our server agent, which orchestrating the powering our application. We are not yet using the SageMaker, but this is something like a phase 2 we are considering, such as a fine-tuning capability to make a better performance, some other use case together. And then we have API layer, experience layer. So this is our full architecture. Probably I'm not going to go through too much in detail, but I want to share what we are hearing from customer. In GenAI adoption, a common theme we hear from customers around 3 key challenges: how to reduce token usage, how to minimize LLM hallucination, how to embed GenAI into the existing applications. We factored this feedback into the design principle in this architecture. So number 1, the importance of data modernization. The pre-processing, modernizing data is a foundation. Cleaner, well-structured data lead to higher quality output, reduce GenAI processing time, and improve reusability across use case. That's where you saw it. We have a data lake is in. The second one is embedding GenAI into the existing application patterns. Rather than building the GenAI in isolation, integrate it directly into the transaction microservice API, event-driven architecture pattern. In certain scenario like a web chat, Sundar is going to do the demo to our web chat, multi-agent orchestration model may be appropriate. However, GenAI can be integrated into your existing microservice API, orchestration tools such as Amazon Step Function, or event scheduler such as Amazon Event Bridge, extending your existing architecture rather than replacing it. Finally, reusability of the agent and tools. Tools are designed for reuse through the MCP. The same principle should extend to the server agent. Architecting them as modular, reusable component. They can be shared with they can be shared and composed across different workload use case. So this is our story. Let me deep dive into the demo.
By the way, I just want to make, while you're switching over to the demo, Anil, what I love about this show and kind of what they built is I feel like we spend so much time on this stream and with customers talking about what some people might call like the Lego boxes, right? All of the different services, and like this service is really good at this, and this is like such a good cross section of all of the great services that we have to offer, but through an industry lens, right?
And I like how TH put it as well, right? So we termed it as we want to extend the AI layer on top of what we have, right? So that's, I think, what everyone is looking at, right? Because they don't want to reinvent everything, but they want to leverage AI on top of it. And we, in this demo, we're going to show how some of the components are going to extend on top of the API layer to MCPify them and make them available for agentic architectures.
So with that, like, would love to get a peek at the demo, TH, to start to see, like I think the folks in the chat want to know how you show this off to customers, right? So take us away, man.
Sure, absolutely. This is a general advisor dashboard. They will have overall AUM, return, number of clients, overall fee to them, AUM trends, client segmentation, etc. So one thing we are thinking about, if you are the advisor, you have to know what's happening in the market, because client can ask at any time. So, I mean, one of my favorite websites is Yahoo Finance, and I actually read a lot of those articles. The problem is that advisors are too busy. So it's hard to digest all this information into the one bucket, and they may have multiple sources there. That's where we actually, how we grabbed in here, we whitelist probably 20 plus websites, and each website has a bunch of articles. In the real time, we extract all this information. After that, we have a few mechanisms grouping the similar theme together. Oops, sorry about it. Let me refresh it. Someone triggered on backend, I guess. So we group them all together. That's where this grouped information we are showing in this sequence order. One example, Amazon deepened AI investment with a 25 billion Anthropic gigs.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I saw that one in my news feed yesterday. Yeah,
exactly.
That was an interesting one.
So that was mentioned, the 3 articles from MarketWatch, Financial Times, CNBC. So what happened, we have backend logic to capturing, clustering the similar theme together. Not only that one, you go up, we have this scoring. So, I mean, so in terms of this, the subject, 11 articles mention the various websites out there. You want to go to more detail, we have actual source page, and then you can go in out there. Not only that one, we are indicating them this theme is bearish, this theme is bullish nature. That's where even advisors not reading this summary, they can understand what's happening in the market. Market is up, market is down, or market is nature. So this is the overall, market information. Advisor probably manage, I don't know, 5, 10, sometimes 100 users. Each customer's investing into the different vehicles. Then I pick up one client, Natasha Johnston. And this person is investing into the 3 bond, couple of mutual fund, and 1 ETF. So we are doing the same process, but in this case, we actually pulled clients' invest asset information from our database. In our case, it's Redshift serverless. And then we pulled these invest asset information and doing the same process. So think about advisor, I'm going to meet with A client, B client, tomorrow, day after tomorrow. It's impossible to understand the market event information. Every client invests the portfolio. This is where we think advisor productivity is coming. So this is one of our components we actually built so far. We're getting the great feedback from advisors.
This makes a lot of sense, right? Because if I think about it, like, so why do a lot of customers choose to work with a financial advisor? Because they want a very personalized portfolio, oftentimes working with that advisor that takes into consideration all of their details, all of their financial goals. And so to your point, if I'm an advisor, I'm probably like, if I have, especially if I'm one with a large book of business with different clients, there's different portfolios meeting to meeting, and kind of switching context between those, I could see getting challenging to do at a high bar. I could see a world where they're like scheduling time between meetings to like get up to speed or like pre-brief, where this brings it to the top, right? Like this makes that data really easy to synthesize. And same with the market events, right? Like I can imagine a world where a major market event happens and the market moves, right? And you're an advisor, you're probably getting phone calls if one of your clients' portfolio was affected. And so to be able to have signal on like what's going on macro level in the market at any point in time. Whenever there are big movements, I feel like to me that this feels like something that is like, of course, like hopefully every advisor has this in their hands in the coming years.
Especially when data is coming at velocity, right? And we need to be able to aggregate that, and then the advisor will have that handy.
Yeah, I just add in there, right? Spot on, Trevor. Right? It's the problem isn't like getting the data right so much as like there's so much of it. So how do you kind of get through it and understand what is the kind of relevant pieces? So multiple sources of that data coming in, right? And it's too much to go through sometimes, right? So super helpful.
Yeah. I just want to quickly move to the client report. Before I pop it up screen, maybe Chris, can you provide a little background why we actually generate this client report using agentic workflow and meet with a hybrid approach in here?
And by the way, this is all mock data, right? So just
it's all mock data.
Yeah, all of our dummy data. But yeah, this is it's a common use case that we're often discussing with customers, right? So what TH is showing here is a bit of a client view, but right, having the ability from that kind of client view to pull together a summary of your customer, right, from the portfolio, from market activity, that takes in your CRM notes, that's taking in financial goals, that's taking in your risk profile, right, and putting all together, getting ready for whether it's a semi-annual, a quarterly meeting, or just an ad hoc meeting with your customers, right? Normally pulling that information together and understanding what you spoke about last time, what has progressed, and making sure you really have that personalized, hyper-personalized conversation. Takes a lot of work to pull all that data and that information together. Sometimes maybe it takes half a day. They might have a team of people doing that. So what this is actually doing is pulling all that information together, and like where it's just kind of like deterministic inputs, pulling that in there, but where we want to create a narrative, we're starting then to create a narrative, right? So it's pulling through it and identifying areas to talk to, areas that should be addressed. And TH will kind of talk to some of that.
Yeah. So this is where we actually clicked one of a client, and you will see those detailed informations out there. And think about advisor has to generate this one in a manual basis. I'm an advisor. I'm going to meet with my client next week. Then upfront, they are gathering all those information together. Then advisor is not even managing the one client. They manage the multiple client. Every client has a different investment vehicle, different interesting area, different requirement. This is where we automate the end-to-end process. So this is a flexible. We created as a template, so you can skip the some of a section, or you can add more section with templates right in here. So it has all the detailed information. So how we are generating this report, this is where I'm coming. So think about you have a 100 customer, and you have to generate this report in a day. We have a scheduler. The scheduler can run daily basis, hour basis, it doesn't matter. Then we have a AWS step function, because we have this orchestration layers, have a bunch of inside the process, and number of client reports generated. That's where we actually put the step function workflow automations, orchestration. Then number one, you first patch data. When you patch data, mean right now we stored all the information on Amazon's the Redshift. We first patch the client's ID. So the reason we start this one is that, do you want to generate all the clients report, or you have a particular group of client you want to generate it? That's where you can extract this client ID information. And then we are actually sending this client ID into our agent workflow. Right now, we are using Amazon Agent Core, Strength Agent as agent process out there. So when you extract the data, we are sending this client ID and extract all relevant information you saw actual report.
What this makes me think, by the way, I love this use case for two. It's obvious to me and probably everybody how this can help an advisor, right? This takes a lot of heavy lifting off the advisor, but I'm thinking, so I work with an advisor, Brad. Shout out Brad if you're out there watching today. Brad, the advisor I've worked with in the past, he generates something like this for me quarterly, and it's on a quarterly basis, right? But sometimes I could see as a client, maybe I have a big life event coming up. Maybe I'm not on that quarterly schedule where they would send out the canned report, and I would like one kind of like dynamically, like I want my snapshot today, right? Based on some market event. So I could, of course, to the advisor, it makes sense. But even as the person being advised, I could see one day these almost extending past the advisor into like maybe some self-service options for customers and those advisors,
Yeah, exactly.
Sorry, TH. I was going to say, absolutely. And that's kind of the purpose of these demos and when we kind of show them. It's like, it's for light bulb moments, right? We're just trying to demonstrate what we can do, but like, oh, actually, maybe I want to put this directly in front of the investor, right? So those kind of things that you can surface and get those ideas.
Exactly. And then what has happened, we are doing the report generation. Do you remember what I say? Customers are asking, how do I reduce a token? So do we have a deterministic data? You saw it, tables, client, the investment information, account information, those does not be handled by the LLM. So those information we processing through the Python on top of Agent Core. Then when you actually create a narrative, we send into the Bedrock, and Bedrock is providing the narrative information. This is where you can reduce token as maximum possible. And then we generate a report using the open source Python library and store this report in S3 bucket, and then update our Redshift of the final report URL so people can download it. So think about whole these frame. At the end, it probably will take 2 hours, 3 hours, because depends on number of client they're gonna generate the report. So GenAI or LLM can be inside in your business process to doing the automation, but it doesn't need the GenAI populating all the information. You can mix match with a traditional API or event bridge types of capability with the GenAI and resolve the business problem.
So how does that gateway there fall in, this particular architecture? How does that help TH?
So if you remember, we have number of agents up and running, and we have a lot of tools. So we want to be sure tools are reusable. So Agent Core Gateway will find right tool to be returned the right data. That's where we are using the Agent Gateway, to identify the right tool. That's number one. Second one is the security, because we want to be sure the authentication authorization process is secure between agent and tools. That's where we are seeing the Agent Core Gateway that help us out.
Excellent. Right. So if we have multiple teams within the enterprise and they're all building tools, we want to make sure that there is reusability. So that's kind of why we use it. Excellent.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, this is it's a really good use case. Like back to the kind of what we're saying at the start of this meeting, right? This really helps with advisor efficiency, right? And it's not just the efficiency. You can do it better, right? So it's now kind of pulling together all of that data that you have and pulling in multiple sources. And it really starts to, you probably had some advisors, some planning teams could do a better job than others because maybe they were more tech savvy. This really democratizes as well all that data that you have at your fingertips. And like you said, Trevor, like if you need to do it on a more of an ad hoc basis, or there's some reason something happens, you want to be a bit more proactive, you can put this together. So it's a good use case and one that I have a lot of conversations around.
Yeah. So let me go to the next use case. Next use case is actually client search. When I say the client search, and every device has keyword-based search capability. And then now people is moving to the natural language-based search, which is we call text to SQL. What if you want to do the deep dive search between the connection network? That's where we are using the graph search. Think about the word, at the end, advisor, client, there is a relationship connected out there. Clients or customers is investing into the particular area. I'm actually putting up my graph. So if you see here, this person is advisor. Advisor is connected to the various customer, and I pick up the one of a customer, and this customer has their own profile, investment areas, or their locations, what last meeting days, and their risk profile, their investor stock or asset information. Eventually, between the client advisors are all connected together. how you can do the deep dive search of the disconnection and figure out the hidden insight. That's where we are using Amazon Neptune analytics service to create this graph. And Neptune also provide backend algorithms using the algorithm basis or direct search to figure out inside the detail. I have a few trial in here. Let me give you one example. Stephen Reed is my best customer. I know what he like it. I do want to figure out who is similar like Stephen Reed. Then, as I mentioned to you, the network is connected together. I will explain you how it works behind the scene in my architecture diagram. Then you will see it. Those number of people are selected. One of the challenge in graph database is that, so you want to understand the more detail of these people. Why is it similar like a Stephen Lee? It's not easy to determine. That's where we are using the GenAI to explain what is the result of this finding in left side, overall summary, findings, recommendation information to the advisor. Not only this one, you may want to download this one and trying to send the email campaign to those folks. So when you download it, you will see the sum of metrics. So I will explain you what these metrics means. So depends on case, I'm using the backend Neptune-based algorithm. The algorithm always provides scoring. Higher number scoring is a higher priority. So you can utilize some of these scoring metrics information to filter it and do the upselling, cross-selling, etc. So you have this information. What if you want to deep dive some of these, the insurance sector, they are interesting about this ticker. You select here, you are doing the next level research out there. This way, you can do the cross-selling, upselling, client segmentation, what if scenario analysis, and risk analysis together. So it's really powerful. In my case, I just onboard advisors, client investment, client profile, client invest area information. But real life scenario, you can pull the more information, then you can really build a large graph and analyze inside the detail and figure out the hidden factors.
So are you doing a live search here, TH, like, to be able to go into the knowledge graph?
Oh, yes, it's a live search. Live search into Neptune database.
Database. And how did you get that, the graphic, right? So that's one of those cool things that I see here.
Yeah.
So the front end is more about the open source library. I'm actually using it to populate the graph. That's where we can do it. But at the end, think about once you identified, for example, I identified this one, you want to get it inside doing something else for the next level. That's where not just graph visualization, having this externality is very important. Now, next step, you want to send the email to them, or you want to do the marketing email campaign. That's where we have Bello component, to download it and upload into the campaign system and triggers emails.
Like, I bet when you show this to customers, like if they get what they're seeing, because really what you're describing here is I've got all of my client data and all my portfolio data, and what we're really what I feel like this is like a layer over top of all of that.
Exactly.
That I can basically natural language search, whatever. To your point, an outbound campaign. Maybe I want to search over my clients. Hey, which clients were impacted by this ticker moving today? Like there's so many different dimensions that you could query. Like there's so many lenses that you can look at this system through.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it, Trev, right? Customer 360, hyper-personalization, right? They're not new terms. Everyone's been talking about it. But here you're starting to really drive at it, right? So you've got all the data sitting underneath it, but like the LLM sitting on top of it, being able to pull that out. The way we're presenting it here, right, is the idea of it augmenting an advisor dashboard and being there. But like, it could be multiple ways, right? You could be using this to generate a report because you've identified upsells, cross-sells that you then want to send out to a certain group of people or work it that way. Maybe it's something you want to put directly in front of an investor. Again, maybe some financial content, some education. So it really starts to kind of pull all that information together and surface that. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah, and I like how you mentioned about hyper personalization, Chris. Like, probably gone are the days of, maybe marketing teams sending like generic emails. These are like going to be very, very specific,
Yeah.
targeted campaigns that could be deployed. Yeah.
Yeah, that one-to-one, right? As opposed to a one-to-many, one-to-multiple, right? How do you kind of really break it down so it truly is personalized and actually feels personalized to me as well? So rather another one of these, I'm ignoring it. It's true and it's useful to you.
Yeah, I think the key is that your data is eventually connected to dot. Then you have to think about graph. Your data is not really connected. You're still good with your relational database. So you have to think about all the solution is coming from how your data is structured. So important having the data modernization. That's where we actually start from building our data lake on top of our SageMaker AI and SageMaker Studio together. This is where you have to think about where the starting point is your data. Your data will answer it. I'm going to utilize graph technology. I'm going to utilize some other technology altogether. So how we built this one. So you see our UI is a similar graph. You ask question. So what has happened before we kick off our agentic workflow? We first load data directly from the Neptune into our UI. That is the reason. But we want to save the token. That's number one. In general, agentic process is slower than microservice architecture. So we want to fast load data upfront. That's number one. And then we are actually translating the natural language into the OpenCipher. By the way, OpenCipher is a SQL language, which is used by the Amazon Neptune Analytics. It's kind of a SQL. So when you actually convert natural language into the OpenCipher, I actually provided two options. One, the simple clustering. Then LLM will generate OpenCipher very easily. Amazon Neptune Analytics provide various algorithms. So I actually push this algorithm into the LLM. So LLM is just smart enough. Should I use the just direct OpenCipher query, or should I have to use these built-in algorithm? So it determine and coming back. So once it's done, I'm doing the validation of the OpenCipher query, and then I'm doing the execution. So it will go to Agent Core Gateway. I have a Lambda MCP connected into the Neptune and pull the information. Once you pull it, do you remember I have the Excel file which actually showing these lists of identified client? So I populated those information with the algorithm metrics together. Once this is done, then I finally generated a report. This report, the input data is the question, Neptune query output, as well as these algorithm metrics together. I pushed all together and then come out with the left side explanation. And then we are streaming the response in the UI. In this way, you can build a reliable, the search capability on AWS.
Yeah, this is so like first of all, I wish we had more shows like this that were like demo architecture. These are like such effective use cases, and the way you have them laid out like this is super clear. I love the detail, by the way, of preloading the data to just save on token cost while still giving folks a nice visual. This makes perfect sense to me. I think when we get off here, I'm going to access this part of the demo and just I could just see myself spending an hour figuring out what new stuff I could query here.
Yeah.
There's just so much potential.
Yeah, we're going to open source it. We will show our the GitHub URL later. So yeah, please download it, explore, and try with your own things out there and see that how is it performing. But I think what I see in the market, graph is getting popular. Yes. Especially is getting popular because now you can explain this graph output using the LLM. So marrying with the LLM graph technology is so popular, and especially Amazon Neptune Analytics service provide a bunch of various algorithm which you can easily find patterns.
Yeah, graph is one of those things. It's like prior to AI, we heard about it with social networks and some security type and fraud type things. But to your point, like generative AI has really created like kind of renaissance for
Exactly.
graph databases, just because of the new use cases the natural language interface kind of unlocks.
And how easy it is to be able to interface with GraphDB now versus maybe in the past, right? So maybe
Yeah, I think before, right, we were primarily talking a lot of it for surveillance, right? Kind of a lot of utilizing that capability now. But now with this, like true, like customer 360 personalization, surfacing those insights, pulling all that data in, it's fantastic what we can do.
Yes. So this is one capability I probably need to hand over to the Sundar so he can showcase about.
Sundar's been quiet because I know he's been charging up. He's been ready to rock with his demo. Sundar, man, thank you. Well, we got it up on the screen. So you know what? I got to make one more comment. Shout out to you all. I also like that the last demo we see is the chatbot. Right, I'm on a lot of calls where the first thing I see is a chatbot. I'm like, I've seen that chatbot about 1 million times. Come on, but I know this is a special chatbot, so I won't steal your thunder, Sundar. Why don't you walk folks through what you're about to show, man?
Yeah, totally. It's going to be a special chatbot. What if the financial advisor can just ask, how is Jennifer's holdings are doing given the market changes today? And then the AI agent can go and fetch Jennifer's information from the database and get the tickers, and then based on the tickers, go and do a stock data search on Yahoo Finance and do some web crawling based on the market conditions and provide me one unified view of Jennifer's holdings based on market conditions. So that's exactly what we built. So this agent is powered by React UI, and it supports both text and voice input. I'm going to cover the text input first. So the way it works is that it supports natural language. You can just go and ask with plain text regarding your client's information, do search on market or specific stock. You can ask all that. And then what would happen is the query would be passed via the routing agent. So these agents are built using strands and with the A2A protocol. A2A is JSON RPC based protocol for agent interaction or agent communication. Think of it like a standardized contract for how agents send messages and then get responses, right? So that's how this is built. And so when the query is sent to the routing agent would, based on the intent of the query, it would route to the right sub-agent here. Say, for example, and you asked about a specific stock, how is Apple today? Or compare between two stocks, Apple and Microsoft, for example. Then the routing agent would send it to the stock agent here, and then the stock agent would provide the response back. And similarly, if it had to do a web search based on market conditions, it would route to the web search agent here, right? So these are separate agents. We could ask them, why do we need them in several agents? Can I not just have one agent do everything? The biggest thing is that separation of concerns, right? So we want each agent to focus on the right. What exactly they have to do. If you put everything into one first thing, your prompt is going to be super big, and then you're going to blow up all the tokens real quick. One. And then the next thing is separation of concerns. So each agent is deployed independently on Agent Core. Agent Core is a managed runtime from Amazon for deploying AI agents. Think of it like a Fargate for deploying AI agents. You just provide a Docker image, it will handle everything else. So once it is deployed into the Agent Core runtime, anything related to scaling or managing it, everything is handled by Agent Core runtime itself. So it also supports short-term memory and long-term memory. Say my financial advisor wanted to ask about a specific client, and then goes for a coffee or lunch, and goes out on and for some other reason for a few hours, and comes back. He can just resume from where he left off and ask about or resume in the chat. So the short-term memory really what it does is that provides the context of the current conversation. And then if the long-term memory is stored for like 30 days, it really helps if I am asking about some complex queries or something like that, for which the agent will have to understand the schema and then build some complex queries and go fetch data. For example, can you find all of my clients from New York, for example, right? And also let me know who is performing great today or something like that. So after a few days, if you want to run the same query for Massachusetts, for example, so now the agent already has a background on how to structure these queries, because it's already in my long-term memory. All it had to do is just instead of on New York, now I'm going to pass on Massachusetts, and then it can provide me the response faster. So it really helps to maintaining the context and also get a faster response.
And maybe I just want to add there to what Sundar said on the memory, right? Sometimes when we're chatting with these systems, a particular client may want data in a particular way. So they'll be telling the advisors, hey, can you send it in this format? And those facts can be captured and then stored in the long-term storage, right? So that whenever they come back next time, they will get the report in the fashion that they want, because it's already, their personalized information, like it can be personalized and stored in the long-term storage.
Absolutely. And then also the history as well, right?
Right.
If I have to store my conversation history and then come back to it after some time, so I don't have to start from scratch. I can start from where I left. I can go back and pick in one of my previous conversation or previous chats and then resume from there. So it's a great feature that Agent Core supports in terms of memory. And then let's talk a little bit about the scheduler here, right? So our scheduler and email tools are Lambda functions, basically. So these are Lambda functions behind Agent Core Gateway, and the gateway handles the auth, schema validation, and routing, everything. Say, for example, I want to get some reports of market conditions every day at 4 p.m., for example. And then what would happen is I can schedule this in Amazon Eventbridge scheduler, and then the prompt will be stored in the Amazon DynamoDB. So at 4 p.m., the prompt will be sent to the routing agent, and then the routing agent will fetch the data using the specific agent, in this case, the web search agent, and then return the response and send an email to me at 4 p.m. So this is scheduled, so I can get that on everyday basis, even without having to query or ask the AI agent in here. So that's in a nutshell about the architecture, but I missed talking about the voice input. So the voice input is slightly a different architecture. You may ask why. The reason being, if I had to route the voice input via the routing agent in here, what would happen is the voice agent is powered by Amazon Bedrock Novasonic, and which itself it's LLM. So if I pass it via the routing agent, then it's going to try to convert. The Novasonic is going to try to convert my speech to text and send it to routing agent, and then the routing agent would send to my sub agent. So it's multiple LLM hops, which is like going to create latency. So we want to separate that. So that's why we have a different architecture for voice. We might re-explore this in our next versions or so. But right now, the way it is architected is so it's separate, so latency is optimized, and I could get quick results. And the persona that we are solving for here is, think of it like your advisor is driving somewhere, then they just want to get a quick information on a specific stock or something. They could just enable the voice chat and then ask, hey, how is Microsoft doing today? And then they could get a quick response. So the response might be slightly different from how we are getting on the text. When we do a text-based input, you will get the graph for a specific stock and a more detailed view. It really the prompt. And however, with the voice, we're gonna get like a crisp answer for the query that.
Yeah,
This makes a lot of sense, and I got to comment. Like one thing that I like about this too, and it might, just for the sake of time, we might want to pop over to the demo of this if you got it handy in a second, Sundar. Is like, I think all of us have used chatbots, right, in our lives now, but I think the reality is like building a high performance, high fidelity chatbot is more than just an LLM and a vector database behind the scenes, right? Like the real large scale production chat interfaces that solve a lot of problems look a lot like this on the back end, which I think is surprising to some customers that maybe stood up a basic RAG demo when they start needing something high fidelity, high accuracy, and performant. We start to see these sort of architectures emerge. So thanks a bunch for walking us through this. Maybe let's show folks a few example queries so they can get a taste of it before.
Absolutely. I'm gonna jump onto it right now, and let me go and click on the little chat icon there. All right, so now I'm gonna ask something like, how is Apple doing today? Sorry. And then the routing agent is going to analyze and send it to the appropriate subagent and then provide me a response. But here, if you see here, all my events are being streamed here. So we built this agent using Strands, and the Strand supports SSC for streaming. And so that's a cool feature. Instead of just seeing the agent is thinking, or I am sending to the specialist agent or something, you exactly get to see what the agent is doing. And here I asked, how is Apple doing today? And then I got response on metrics and some key takeaways, and insights from market, and the graph on how Apple stock has been doing over a time period. Right. So now I can make this a little bit more complex. Now I say compare Apple and Microsoft. So now the agent is going to try to get two tickers, Apple and Microsoft, and try to get those two different stocks insights and compare them and provide me with a response. So it really helps the advisor here, right? So as an advisor, I have several clients that have multiple stocks, and I want to be able to provide a good insight to them based on their holdings, right? So say, they had Apple and Microsoft, and or they're looking to invest on a certain thing, and I could do a quick search and then get them the right information, which would help them.
Yeah, I just want to add a couple of things. When you actually have a stock ticker, when you ask a prompt, Sundar, can you scroll up? You will see the chart. That's a dynamic chart, historical data. Can you click the different, like a month and YTD, etc.? Maybe this one.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's.
Because to think about the advisor, if it's coming as a text, probably they're not going to read all of them. So we summarize it, and they can play around with this historical data point out there. They can figure out why they are searching the information. This is where we have a multi-agent backend up and running, but just not the agent, the front end. We want to be sure it's captured the very meaningful information, including the dynamic chart, summary information metrics, market event information together. This is where you're going to see all this information on one screen together.
Yep. So the advisor here. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I love how you've to your point, you've exposed this in a very familiar view. This is how people viewing tickers, comparing them, tend to do it, right? And so having this embedded into the chatbot as a frame,
exactly,
point, like, is more realistic than other examples of this I've seen, where it's just like it's like ASCII response of like the
Markdown,
stock ticker. Yeah, like a markdown response or whatever, which is like, I appreciate the level of thought and polish that you all put into this, because this is what an advisor would expect.
Yeah.
Right?
I think about it as well, Trev, right? So it's not just the market use. You think of this smart chart is within the advisor dashboard and kind of tools that you're using. So now it's like conversational BI, right? Rather than just going to a dashboard and filtering and searching and looking at things, now you can just ask your questions as well. So it's like super helpful from that way for surfacing insights and looking at data.
Absolutely. Sundar, can you try the scheduler?
Absolutely. So I was going to go to the next one. So we spoke a little bit about scheduler earlier, right? So say, show my schedule. I want to know if there are any show my schedules or something like that. I do have one created already. So that's what it's going to try to fetch and let me know that, hey, these are all the schedules that you have already. I have a daily oil price report that I want to be sent to my email in here at 4 p.m., right? So now what happens really, I want to actually even open my email client and show that real quick.
In fact, Sundar, not to cut you too short here, we may have them suspend disbelief and assume that you can have an email follow up on this one, right?
We'll tell you the background is that, do you think otherwise will come back our system and ask the same question? The answer is no. That's where we want to send the updated information in particular time to their inbox, because think about advisor, they check their email, they check probably Slack types of messaging, so they may not come back. That's when, okay, don't worry, we're gonna push the information with the latest information during their time. So we are, whatever you see the information with the updated data during that time, we are sending as email. If you remember tools, agent reusability, we store this input prompt in the DynamoDB, and EventBridge is following the same protocol process and then sending the email with the updated information. This is where so powerful two-way conversation, not just like user has to come back to the ask the same question. They don't need it anymore. We're going to push you with the latest information.
And it could be email, it could be like real time, any of those chat mechanisms, right? Yeah,
it can be the app or emails or whatever.
Because
go ahead, Neil. Sorry, man.
No, I was going to say like email. I mean, people are reading emails, but now I have an agent reading my email and summarizing and sending me notes so that I can chat with my email.
Yes.
Love it, guys. I mean, I think just to kind of like to review what we spent the last hour doing, right? It's like what I'm taking away from this is like there's a lot of different ways that advisors, wealth managers, customers in this space broadly can use generative AI to improve their workloads. Improve their personal workflows, but also like there's clearly going to be some upstream customer experience impact, right? By getting these tools in the hands of advisors. I just wanted to thank, like, first of all, like thanks to the team for like spending. Like I felt like this was the solution I was looking for my customers, and it just fell out of the sky because you all are basically already built this accelerator over the last few months. So thanks for like taking the time to kind of showcase it here live today, folks. If I saw some folks asking in the chat how you can access this, take a look in the YouTube description. Tomorrow we'll get the link live whenever this all goes public on our GitHub in the next few days. But I wanted to just open it up to Chris, TH, and the team. First of all, thank you for spending the time with us. Thanks for putting the session together. Any last comments or questions or things you would leave the audience with before we let folks go about the rest of their Tuesday evenings?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks to everyone involved in this. Been a fun project today, but we're not done, right? We continue to build on this platform. So as we said, right, it's an accelerator. Reach out to us. The idea is to kind of demonstrate what we can build, what can be built with the services from AWS, from Amazon. So that's what we're trying to show here. And we're going to keep adding to it. We're going to build out the next phase of the investor-facing one. Maybe there's some more onboarding workflows, more autonomous workflows, prospecting, lead gen. So we'll continue to add to it. If you have ideas, reach out to us. We're here to kind of demonstrate the art of the possible.
And what I love about this architecture is that you can use it for this financial data tracking, but you can use this for anything else, right? So this shows that the chatbot, the knowledge data graph, being able to interact with all of these components. So kudos to team.
Yeah, I just want to also emphasize one more part. We have a total 5, builder who is all SA, and it took approximately 7 weeks to finish development. You know what? Our last SA is a Keto. So we utilize a Keto to accelerate those developments and make sure there is a speed of development delivery. So that's where please utilize those agentic coding tools. It absolutely accelerate your solution deliveries.
100%, right? Because this is an accelerator, and I'm sure even maybe as we take these to customers, they could use a coding assistant to kind of take our initial wireframe and start shifting that over to their data sources or something like that. So
you guys built this whilst doing your day job as well.
yeah,
Very good. Right? So that's where the 7 weeks went. Yeah.
That's right. That wasn't a 7-week developer sprint. That was a 7-week vibe coding on the side while jumping onto my customer calls whenever I need some smart agentic folks talking. Hey, thank you all for spending the time with us, folks in the audience. Thanks for sticking around and the engagement in the chat. It's been an absolute pleasure. We host this show every week. So next week we'll have a new demo. I hope we have this demo back again in the next iteration, maybe sometime in Q3. But just wanted to say thanks to everybody for joining us today, and we will see all you folks in the chat again next week. All right. Goodbye, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, good night.